Chosen one. Stop scrolling. Heaven has paused everything around you to speak right now. You have felt it, haven't you? That quiet discomfort in places that used to feel like home. The songs still play. The sermons still echo. But something deep within you knows it's over. You don't belong where God's presence has departed. You are being called out of the walls. Not because you failed, but because you outgrew what could no longer carry the weight of your anointing. You sit in the back row sometimes, wondering why your spirit feels restless even when the music sounds holy. It's because you've been chosen for something beyond the structure of religion. Heaven is drawing a line between those who worship out of habit and those who worship out of revelation. You, chosen one, are hearing the call to step out of what is familiar and step into what is divine. Listen carefully. This is not rebellion. It's redirection. You are not walking away from God. You are walking toward Him. The Spirit is saying, I am not confined to your buildings or your programs. I am alive in you. For too long, systems have silenced the Spirit's whispers. You were told to sit down, to wait your turn, to follow traditions written by men who forgot how to hear heaven. But the Lord says, I'm moving again, and those who follow me must move with me. And you are part of the generation that refuses to let religion cage revelation. The shaking you feel inside churches is not chaos, it's divine correction. Heaven is breaking open every false foundation so that truth can rise again. You're not leaving the church. You're becoming the church alive. Breathing. Unstoppable. Every time you tried to stay where you no longer fit, God stirred the ground beneath your feet. Every door that closed, every misunderstanding, every quiet departure, it was not rejection, it was divine evacuation. God is pulling you out before the collapse, because He is building something new through you. The structures of yesterday can't hold the oil of tomorrow. You are carrying new wine, and new wine needs a new vessel. There will be people who don't understand. They'll say, you've fallen away, or you're deceived. Smile gently. They don't know what it's like to be called by name out of the crowd. You were never meant to blend in with them. You were meant to blaze a path for them. The wilderness you're stepping into is not a punishment. It's a prophetic invitation. It's where God meets His chosen ones face to face. And when you walk out of those doors for the last time, heaven takes note. Angels mark that moment. The same Spirit that led Moses out of Egypt and Elijah to the mountain is now leading you into a season where your altar will be built with obedience, not attendance. This is what divine freedom feels like: strange, holy, weighty, yet peaceful all at once. The Lord is tearing away everything built by performance, pride, and politics. He is not asking you to sit in pews anymore. He's asking you to stand on promises. Your worship is not confined to a stage. It's your breath, your heartbeat, your every act of love and truth. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I with them. Do you feel that? His presence is with you right now. No choir, no pulpit, just pure communion. This is what the next move of God looks like. Sons and daughters awakening in their homes, in the streets, in the quiet hours of the night, declaring, I am the temple now. So hear this. Chosen one, God has decided the time of sitting still is over. The age of attendance has ended. The age of assignment has begun. You are called to carry the fire beyond the walls. Don't fear what's ahead. The same spirit that shook the upper room now fills your living room. The same voice that thundered on Sinai now whispers inside your chest. You are not abandoned. You are commissioned. Now, rise. With boldness in your spirit and peace in your heart, lift your eyes to heaven and say, Here I am. Lord, use me. Let your yes echo through eternity. If this message ignites something within you, take a moment right now, like, share, and subscribe, so this flame spreads farther. And before you leave, type 777 inches the comments as a prophetic act symbolizing divine completion, divine confirmation, divine calling. You are chosen. You are sent. You are the church without walls. You remember the unease that crept into your spirit long before you ever walked out of those doors. At first, it felt like guilt, like maybe you were the one drifting away. But deep down, you knew heaven was closing a door. Every whisper of discomfort, every moment of restlessness during sermons that used to stir your soul, was not rebellion. It was revelation. God was whispering, you have seen enough. You have learned enough. Now, it is time to come out from among them, Beloved chosen one. Heaven does not waste pain. The awkward silences, the cold glances, the feeling of invisibility among those who once praised your presence, these were not punishments. They were signals. You were being weaned off the approval of man so that you could hunger for the approval of God alone. For a long time, you tried to make sense of it. Why can't I feel at home in a place that calls itself God's house? You asked. But the Spirit was gently shifting your focus. The house had become more important than the presence dwelling within it. You may have tried to go back a few times, just to see if it still felt like home. You sat there, nodding at familiar songs, listening to polished words. But something was missing. It wasn't arrogance or bitterness. It was the realization that the Spirit had moved on. You didn't walk away from God. God walked with you out of the door. When heaven closes a door, the silence can be deafening. You might have prayed, Lord, why does it feel like you're far? But what you were feeling wasn't his absence, it was his movement. The cloud had shifted, just like it did in the wilderness. The same God who led Israel by fire and cloud is leading you now, not by address, but by Spirit. He never meant for his presence to be confined to any building. His glory moves with those who are willing to move with him. So if the door has closed behind you, don't stand there knocking on what heaven has locked. Don't beg for entry into spaces where your spirit no longer breathes. God is calling you to build altars in unexpected places, on mountaintops of prayer, in the quiet corners of your room, in conversations where his name is whispered rather than announced. You carry the new sanctuary within you. The feeling of loss you sense is sacred. It's what every prophet felt when God shifted them from comfort to calling. Jeremiah wept when he realized his path would not look like others. Elijah ran to the cave when the crowds turned cold. Even Jesus was misunderstood by the very priests who claimed to serve his Father. The pattern is ancient when heaven closes a door. It is preparing a wilderness for the chosen. And in that wilderness, God speaks in ways you never heard before. There's a strange relief in letting go of what no longer fits. At first, you grieve the community, the rhythm, the routine. But then, like dawn breaking through fog. Peace comes. You realize you've been set free. Free from performing faith. Free from spiritual politics. Free from people's opinions of how holy you should look. You start to breathe again, not because you've abandoned worship, but because worship finally feels alive again. Do not resent the door that closed. It was heaven's mercy in disguise. For some, that door remains open, and they will stay until the walls themselves tremble. But for you, chosen one, God has decided otherwise. You are being sent into uncharted territory, carrying light where light has been forgotten. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Though you not perceive it, I make a way in wilderness and streams in wasteland. That is what this season is, the wilderness where streams appear, the wasteland where wonder is reborn. You are not lost, you are led. God is writing a new chapter, one where you don't depend on routine to feel His presence. Instead, you live in constant awareness of it. The same Spirit that stirred you to leave is the same one guiding every step forward. You will look back one day and thank God for every closed door. You'll realize that each one redirected you closer to purpose, closer to purity, closer to power. The ministry you carry won't fit inside the systems of men, because it was designed for the streets, for the broken, for the hungry. You are not leaving the church. You are becoming the church that cannot be shut down, cannot be silenced, cannot be scheduled. You are not the only one who heard the whisper. Across nations and time zones, others like you are awakening in the night, feeling that same divine stirring, the sense that something sacred is shifting. You are part of a hidden remnant, scattered like embers across the earth, waiting for the breath of God to ignite you into flame. It began quietly, a restlessness here, a discontent there. No one announced it. No prophet predicted it on television. But heaven had already set it in motion. The scattered chosen ones, those who no longer found peace in man-made religion, are rising again, not as rebels, but as reformers. They carry the same DNA of Elijah, the same courage of Esther, the same faith of Abraham. They are not confined by buildings, labels, or denominational walls. Their allegiance is not to a system, but to the voice of the Spirit that calls them by name. You, chosen one, are one of them. You were not abandoned. You were strategically positioned. God has placed you in this moment of history to be part of a hidden network, an underground movement of light, unseen by crowds, but fully known by heaven. The enemy cannot find you because you are concealed within God's timing. You are being prepared, refined, and equipped for something that will shake the foundations of the world. It may look like you are alone, but you are surrounded by a family you've never met. Somewhere out there, another chosen one is praying at this exact moment, feeling the same pull, the same divine ache. Heaven is synchronizing hearts across borders. The Spirit is weaving together the faithful who refused to compromise, those who stayed true even when misunderstood. This is the hidden remnant, small in number, mighty in power. Many will not recognize them because they do not wear titles or sit in positions. They are teachers who burn quietly, artists who carry revelation in their work, mothers who intercede behind closed doors, young men who hear God in the silence of their rooms. They are the living church, the unseen army, and the moment will come when God says, "Now." When that word is spoken, the hidden will rise, the silent will roar, and the forgotten will become forerunners of the new move of God. The world calls them different. Heaven calls them set apart. You may have been overlooked by the systems of men, but you have been chosen by the King of Heaven. What you lost in visibility, you gained in authority. You are not being punished for leaving the crowd. You are being prepared to lead it when the time comes. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 19, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Oh, creation itself is waiting for you to awaken fully. The earth groans for the emergence of those who walk not by status, but by spirit. The skies, the seas, and even the winds are watching for the rise of the remnant. When you step into obedience, the universe responds, because heaven recognizes divine order returning to the earth. So, chosen one, do not mistake hiddenness for insignificance. A seed is buried before it grows. The silence you are in is not abandonment, it is incubation. God is protecting what He is producing. The anointing He placed within you is not fragile, it is precious. It cannot be rushed or marketed. It must mature in the secret place. There will come a day when all that was hidden will be unveiled. The very ones the world ignored will become the voices heaven amplifies. The rejected will become revivalists, and the silent ones will speak with thunder. You will look around and see others who walked the same lonely road, and you'll know it was never in vain. Take a breath. Look around. Even now, though unseen, the remnant is alive. You are surrounded by those who carry the same fire, the same holy discontent, the same yearning for something pure. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration. Now, if this truth echoes inside you, write these simple words as a prophetic response. I am awake. Type it not as a comment, but as a declaration to heaven. When you declare it, you align yourself with every hidden one who has heard the same call. Together, your words become a sound, a frequency that heaven recognizes. I am awake means you refuse to slumber again. It means you accept your role in the remnant. It means you acknowledge that what God has started cannot be stopped. Remember this, you are not the only light flickering in the darkness. The night may seem endless, but dawn is closer than you think. The hidden remnant is rising, and you are part of that awakening. You have seen it, the difference between those who perform faith and those who live it. Once, you thought they were the same, but now your eyes have been opened. The Spirit has begun to teach you the difference between religion and relationship, and it changes everything. Religion demands that you act holy. Relationship transforms you until holiness becomes your nature. Religion counts attendance. Relationship counts surrender. Religion speaks loudly of God. Relationship listens quietly for His whisper. This revelation does not come through study alone. It comes through breaking. You had to be broken away from routine to discover the raw pulse of divine connection. For so long, the system made you feel as though you had to earn God's love, serve more, give more, prove your worth. But then the Spirit whispered, you are already loved, already seen, already mine. It was in that moment you realized that God never wanted your performance. He wanted your presence. When you sat in those pews, sometimes you felt more pressure than peace. The sermons were sharp, the expectations heavy. You clapped when others clapped, raised your hands when others raised theirs. But inside, your spirit was dry. You wondered why you could feel God more in your solitude than in the sanctuary. It's because His presence is not bound by location. His glory is not measured by crowd size or sound systems. The God who met Moses in the desert, who spoke to Elijah in a whisper, who found David alone with his harp, He meets you too, in the quiet corners of your heart. Religion taught you to approach God from a distance. Relationship invites you to walk with Him as a friend. It was religion that made Adam hide after the fall. But it was relationship that made God call out, "Where are you?" That question still echoes today, not because He doesn't know where you are, but because He wants you to know that He is still seeking you. Every time you felt unworthy to pray, every time you hesitated to lift your hands because of what people might think, He was still calling you closer. The Spirit is cleansing your perception. You are learning that prayer is not a performance, it's a conversation. That worship is not a song, it's surrender. That holiness is not about separation from people, but about connection with God. You no longer chase after experiences to feel spiritual. You carry His presence within you. Wherever you go, the old ways cannot hold the weight of this revelation. Systems crumble when intimacy rises. Religion fears freedom because it cannot control it. But those who are led by the Spirit understand that true obedience is born from love, not fear. You are not a servant working to earn favor. You are a child already loved by the Father. This is the relationship that religion could never teach you. There will always be voices that tell you, you need structure, or you're walking away from accountability. But those who live by the Spirit are not lawless. They are guided by divine alignment. When the world sees chaos, heaven sees surrender. When people say you're lost, heaven says you've been found. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 14. But the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart, so that you may obey it. This is the essence of relationship. It is within you. You don't have to climb a mountain to find God or wait for a leader to grant permission. The Word lives inside you, breathing, moving, reminding you that you are never alone. The altar you once sought outside of yourself has now been built within your spirit. Religion taught you to fear making mistakes, but relationship teaches you to grow through them. It's not perfection God seeks, it's connection. He doesn't require flawless devotion. He desires honest hearts. That's why the Spirit keeps whispering to you, urging you to rest in grace instead of striving for approval. In this revelation, you find peace. The burden lifts. You realize that your walk with God is not about maintaining an image, it's about maintaining intimacy. When you pray now, it's not to impress heaven, but to open your heart. When you worship, it's not to be seen, but to be changed. Every tear becomes a language. Every sigh becomes a song. Every moment becomes holy. You begin to see others differently too. Instead of judging their appearance or rituals, you start to feel compassion for their journey. Relationship births empathy. You stop comparing your path to theirs, because you understand that God meets each heart uniquely. You no longer see Christianity as a structure of rules, but as a rhythm of love. This is what it means to live in relationship, to walk with God daily, honestly, even clumsily at times, but never pretending. The veil is gone. You no longer approach him through systems or ceremonies. You walk straight into his presence as his own. That is the freedom religion could never give you. And once you taste that freedom, you can never go back. You've walked through the doors and into the silence that follows, a silence so vast it almost frightens you. The familiar rhythms are gone, no choir swelling, no sermon echoing. Instead, there is only the sound of your own breath and the whisper of wind through unseen places. You wonder, is this what obedience feels like? It is. The wilderness is not empty, it is sacred. It is where heaven speaks without microphones, where the ground itself becomes holy because you dared to step upon it. The lonely wilderness, below chosen one, is not a punishment, it's preparation. Every prophet, every reformer, every world changer walked through this same barren land. Moses wandered 40 years. Elijah hid by a brook. John the Baptist lived among wild beasts. And even Jesus retreated to the desert before his ministry began. The wilderness is not God's rejection, it's his classroom. He strips away the noise so you can finally hear his voice without interference. It's quiet here. Yes, but listen closer. Underneath the silence, something is stirring. The ground beneath your feet is alive with unseen roots. What you think is isolation is actually cultivation. You are the seed God buried, not because he wanted to hide you, but because he wanted you to grow unseen before you grow unstoppable. At first, the loneliness presses heavy, the nights stretch long, and you question your steps. You wonder if you misunderstood the call, if perhaps you walked too far from safety. But then, one morning, you wake and notice the light differently. The same sun that scorched you yesterday now feels like warmth. The same path that felt endless now feels purposeful. That's how you know the wilderness is doing its work. It changes how you see. Here, you learn to trust without proof. You learn to love God, not for his blessings, but for his presence. You learn to live on manna just enough for today and to thank him for the water that flows from unexpected rocks. You learn to stop performing and start being. You realize that even in your solitude, you are seen. The word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 63, verse 1, O God, you are my God, earnestly I seek you, my soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and weary land where there is no water. End of 4. That is the cry of every chosen one in the wilderness. It's the sound of hunger and hope intertwined. You may not have a crowd around you, but you have heaven's attention. Every tear shed here waters the soil of your destiny. Every lonely prayer builds a foundation for the fire to fall later. This wilderness season is not wasted time. It's where character is forged, where calling is confirmed, where power is purified. God hides his best warriors in silence before unveiling them in glory. The wilderness removes the need for applause, teaching you that intimacy with God is its own reward. Still, you must remember, even wilderness prophets need warmth. In this season, if these words have been a shelter to you like a small fire burning in the dark, then let your heart respond in gratitude. When you like this message, you add a spark to the flame. When you share it, you carry that light into someone else's cave. When you subscribe, you stay near the fire so the warmth never fades. And if you feel led, if something within you whispers that this flame must continue burning for others still wandering, then your donation becomes oil for the lamp. It is not an obligation, it is an offering. Like the widow who gave her last drop of oil, you're not funding a platform, you're feeding a movement. Every act of giving, no matter how small, becomes another spark heaven uses to reach another chosen one still lost in the dark. Imagine it, 1,000 hidden lights across the earth, glowing in rooms and deserts, sustained by the generosity of those who understand that fire must be fed. Your contribution, your click, your simple act of sharing these are not digital gestures. They are spiritual seeds sown into eternity. One day, you will look back and realize that this wilderness wasn't a detour. It was the path all along. You will thank God for every quiet night, for every unanswered question, for every dry place that forced you to dig deeper into His presence, because it was here, away from applause, that you discovered the essence of your faith. So hold your head high, wanderer of light. Let the stars remind you that even in darkness, heaven still shines. Keep walking, keep seeking, and keep the fire alive for yourself. And for those who will one day follow the glow of your obedience, there comes a time when the Spirit begins to separate you, and that separation feels both painful and divine. You begin to notice how everything and everyone that once felt necessary slowly fades into the background. It's not because you've changed into someone proud, it's because God has changed your assignment. This is the prophetic season of separation, where heaven draws a holy line between what was and what will be. At first, it feels cruel. People stop understanding you. Conversations that once inspired now feel shallow. You sit among friends and feel unseen. Not because they've grown cold, but because your spirit has shifted dimensions. You've outgrown the space they still find comfortable. And in that quiet ache of distance, God whispers, "Don't cling. I am pruning, not punishing." No, every divine calling carries a season of divine cutting. Before Joseph ruled in the palace, he was separated from his brothers. Before David wore the crown, he was pulled away from the crowd. Even Jesus often withdrew from the multitudes to pray alone in the mountains. Isolation is heaven's method of insulation. It protects your anointing from contamination. You may think you're losing people, but in truth, you're gaining purity. The Spirit removes not just those who harm you, but even those who distract you. Every conversation that used to entertain your flesh now irritates your spirit. It's because your frequency is changing. You're tuning to heaven's wavelength, and static can no longer coexist with the sound of destiny. Do not resist the pruning. Do not chase after what God has dismissed. The pruning is not the end, it is the prelude to power. Every branch that bears fruit must first be cut so it can bear even more. The relationships fading away are not being stolen by the enemy, they're being filtered by God. The people who truly belong to your purpose will find their way back in His timing. This separation is sacred. Heaven is teaching you to walk alone with confidence. You're learning to find joy without validation, peace without applause, and direction without confirmation. You're becoming the kind of believer who doesn't need a crowd to believe, the kind who can hear God, even in the absence of noise. It may sting when you realize that the ones you loved most can no longer journey beside you. But hear this, some hearts cannot carry the weight of your assignment. They were never built for the altitude you're called to climb. When God begins to elevate, He often isolates. He loves you too much to let you drag unnecessary weight up the mountain, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 3, "Can two walk together unless they are agreed?" That verse carries a truth sharper than any sword. Agreement is the currency of spiritual partnership. When your spirit begins to move in rhythm with heaven, anyone walking out of step must part ways. It's not betrayal, it's divine alignment. And yet, even in this lonely obedience, something beautiful happens. You begin to hear heaven more clearly. The fog lifts. The distractions fade. What used to confuse you now feels simple, almost effortless. The noise of others' opinions fades until only His voice remains. In that voice, you find strength. In that solitude, you discover stability. Don't rush this season. Don't try to fill it with new people just to silence the ache. The ache itself is holy. It's carving space for the glory that's coming. The more room you make through surrender, the more power heaven will entrust to you. Every goodbye becomes an altar. Every silence becomes a sanctuary. Every tear becomes oil for the next season's anointing. One day, you will understand why this had to happen. The same people who couldn't see your calling then will recognize it later. And it won't be pride. You feel it will be compassion. You'll bless them quietly, grateful that God protected both them and you from a destiny mismatch. And when that realization settles in your heart, gratitude will replace grief. You'll look back and say, if they had stayed, I might have never grown. You'll thank God not only for who entered your life, but for who exited it, because everything and everyone removed was necessary for your refinement. Now, if these words resonate deep within you, if you know this season of separation is your reality, type 444 inches. The comments, it's not superstition, it's a prophetic symbol of divine order and angelic alignment. It says to heaven, I understand the pruning. I accept the isolation. I trust the process. Let your comment become your covenant, a sign that you choose to stay in the refining fire until the gold of your purpose shines forth. There is a holy unmasking taking place across the earth. You can feel it in your spirit, the shift, the exposure, the sudden clarity that lets you see what you could not before. The curtain is being pulled back, and the Lord is revealing the truth about what was built in His name, but never carried His presence. The false altars are trembling. What once looked like gold is rusting in the light of His glory. Chosen one, this is not an ordinary time. It is a season of divine unveiling, where God is tearing down what men have built in pride and calling forth what was planted in purity. For too long, the stage replaced the secret place. The spotlight became brighter than the altar. People began to worship personalities instead of presence, platforms instead of power. But the Spirit of the Lord says, no more. You have sensed this, haven't you? The strange hollowness behind the polished words. The performance that feels perfect, yet empty. It's not your imagination, it's discernment. Heaven has been awakening your spirit to recognize the difference between the voice of charisma and the voice of the shepherd. The two are not the same. One draws applause, the other draws repentance. There was a time when the church was known for its fire. Now, many are known for their branding. Yet, even in this, God's mercy remains. He is not destroying His people. He is purifying his bride. The exposure of false altars is not vengeance, it's deliverance. He loves his house too much to let deception sit undisturbed. You may feel the tension, the discomfort of seeing leaders fall, ministries crumble, or long-respected names suddenly revealed in shadow. It breaks your heart. You wonder, Lord, how could this happen? But God answers, so that truth may live again. The shaking you see is heaven's justice at work. What was built without integrity cannot withstand his wind. Every counterfeit flame will fade, and only the pure fire will remain. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 7, verse 4. Do not trust in deceptive words and say, "This is the temple of the Lord." The temple of the Lord. The temple of the Lord. The words echo across generations, a warning against trusting structures that have lost their spirit. You see, not every place that carries his name carries his nature. Some altars were built for him, others were built around him. The difference lies in obedience. The first honors his voice, the second honors man's vision. This revelation is painful, but necessary. God must expose what is false before he can elevate what is true. Just as Jesus overturned the tables in the temple, he is overturning systems built on greed, control, and manipulation. The spiritual empires that exploited the faithful are being dismantled. The hidden corruption behind smiles and sermons is being brought to light, not to destroy faith, but to restore it. And where does that leave you? Chosen one, right where heaven needs you, in the position of discernment, not disillusionment. You are not called to mock the fallen or curse the broken. You are called to intercede. When you see the exposure, don't point prey. When you see the downfall, don't gloat, groan in the spirit. Because judgment belongs to God, but mercy is the mark of those who truly know him. You must also guard your heart in this time. The enemy will try to twist your discernment into cynicism, your purity into pride. He will whisper, "See, everyone is corrupt. You don't need anyone. Resist him. You are called out. Yes, but not cut off. You are separated, but not superior. God removed you from deception so that he could restore your compassion, not your arrogance. As the false altars fall, the true ones are rising again, built not with marble or microphones, but with tears and truth. They appear in living rooms, quiet gatherings, circles of prayer where hearts are sincere and motives pure. This is where the Spirit dwells now, in those who bow low, not those who stand tall. The glory that once filled temples is returning to tents, to homes, to hearts. So, do not be afraid when the shaking continues. It must happen. Every false foundation must crack before the true can be revealed. You are witnessing the beginning of a spiritual reformation, not the end of faith. What God is doing now is not destruction, it is reconstruction. The house of the Lord will rise again. But this time, it will not be built on celebrity or competition. It will be built on Christ alone. And you, yes, you will play a role in that rebuilding. But for now, stand still and see. Let the shaking separate. Let truth shine through the dust. The Lord is cleaning his house, and though it hurts to watch, know this: when the cleansing is complete, his glory will dwell among the humble once more. You have begun to notice it, the stirring deep inside that feels like both pressure and promise. It's the sense that something within you is expanding, that the measure of what you carry can no longer fit inside the molds that once held it. This is not pride, it is prophecy. You carry new wine, and heaven refuses to let you pour it into old wineskins. For years, you tried to blend in, to stay small, to honor systems that didn't honor your spirit. You sat quietly while others spoke, even when you felt the word of God burning in your bones. But lately, the silence has become too heavy. You can't keep what heaven is trying to release. God Himself is pressing you, stretching you, reshaping you into a vessel that can contain what's next. It's uncomfortable, yes, but this is what transformation feels like. The process of becoming a new wineskin is not gentle. It feels like being torn and remade at the same time. The Spirit begins to expose every place where rigidity still hides in you: old beliefs, old fears, old patterns. You begin to see how religion taught you to fear change, while revelation invites you to embrace it. You realize that obedience doesn't always look like stability. Sometimes it looks like breaking and pouring. There's a reason why heaven had to take you out of the old systems. It's not because you were too rebellious, it's because you were too ripe. The old structure couldn't handle the fermentation of what God is producing inside you. If you had stayed, your growth would have caused the wineskin to burst, and both would have been lost. So He separated you to save you, not from sin, but from suffocation, as Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verse 38. But new wine must be put into new wineskins. Oh, that one line is your life right now. Everything familiar is being reshaped. Every comfort zone is cracking. The friendships, the habits, the environments that once sustained you are now too small to contain you. You try to explain it, but most won't understand. How can they? They haven't tasted what's inside you. They still live by memory, while you're moving by revelation. The pressing season is holy. It's where grapes become wine, and potential becomes power. You feel the weight of God's hand pressing on your life, and it hurts. But that pressure is producing purity. Oil and wine only come from something that's been crushed. You cannot carry divine substance without divine stretching. The weight you feel is not punishment, it's preparation. Every drop of pain becomes part of the flow that will soon pour from you. You're learning how to yield, how to bend without breaking. This is what distinguishes chosen vessels from common ones, their willingness to be reshaped no matter the cost. You're not being ruined, you're being refined. And while you are being reshaped, heaven watches in silence. The angels do not interfere because they understand the purpose of the process. Even God does not rush it. He knows that time under pressure will make you pliable enough to carry His glory without cracking. When you begin to accept the stretching, you'll also begin to taste the sweetness. The bitterness that once came from being misunderstood starts to fade, replaced by peace. You stop needing everyone's validation. You stop trying to explain your calling to those who were never meant to understand it. You find joy in the mystery, comfort in the stretching, purpose in the pain. There will be days when you miss the old you, the predictable one, the one who fit neatly into people's expectations. But that version of you could never hold this level of anointing. The version emerging now is freer, deeper, stronger. The wilderness that once felt like exile now feels like a vineyard. and your tears have become the rain that nourishes it. The new wine within you isn't just for your own refreshment, it's for others who are still thirsty. What God is doing in you will one day overflow through you. Your obedience will become someone else's breakthrough. The taste of your surrender will carry healing for those still bound by fear. You are not meant to stay bottled up. When the season is right, God will uncork your calling and pour it out into a world desperate for authenticity. And when that day comes, you'll understand why it took so long, why the pressing was necessary, why the stretching couldn't be avoided. Every delay, every disappointment, every isolation, it was all part of preparing the vessel for the vintage. The nights have grown quieter, haven't they? You wake up sometimes between dreams and reality, feeling a pull in your spirit you can't quite name. It's not fear, it's an awakening. Heaven is stirring the watchman again. You, chosen one, are among them. The earth itself trembles with a sense of expectancy, and those with ears to hear are rising from spiritual slumber. You've felt it for weeks, maybe months, a strange urgency, a vibration in your chest when you pray, a heaviness when you see injustice or deception spreading without restraint. That is not anxiety. That is your anointing responding to heaven's call. You are being awakened as one of the watchmen of this generation, those who stand between light and darkness, between warning and hope. You were never meant to sleep through this hour. God trusted you enough to wake you while others remain distracted. The dreams that have grown more vivid, the prayers that come without planning, the sudden tears in worship, all of it is heaven's way of saying, stay awake. Your post matters. As watchmen don't always look like soldiers. Sometimes they look like intercessors, artists, teachers, or quiet souls who simply refuse to be silent when truth is under attack. You may not carry a microphone, but you carry discernment. And that is the greater weapon. Your eyes see what others overlook. Your spirit feels what others ignore. And your silence, when God tells you to watch and wait, carries more power than the noise of 1,000 voices speaking without His permission. You stand on the wall of prayer, seeing into realms most never notice. The weight you feel is not yours to bear alone. It's the burden of the watchman, shared with heaven. When you groan in the Spirit without knowing why, heaven records every sound. When you intercede in the middle of the night, you are joining a chorus of hidden warriors across the earth who are doing the same. The prophet Ezekiel once carried this same calling. He knew the loneliness of seeing too much and being understood by too few. Yet God told him plainly, in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, verse 7, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. So hear the word, I speak, and give them warning from me. That same mantle rests on your shoulders now. You are not just surviving this season, you are standing guard. You've been trained in private, so you can protect in public. Your prayer life has become a fortress where others find safety without even knowing your name. When you pray, nations shift. When you worship, atmospheres clear. When you speak, darkness listens. But remember, watchmen do not fight for attention, they fight for alignment. Your reward is not applause but awareness. The fact that God wakes you is the sign that He trusts you. Every midnight prayer, every burden you carry, every moment you resist giving up, it all matters. You are writing history in the invisible. This is also why your life feels different. You can't sin casually, gossip freely, or lie carelessly. The Spirit convicts you faster because the stakes are higher. You are a sentinel of heaven, and the eyes of eternity watch through yours. You are not called to judgment, you are called to intercession. You don't condemn the sleeping, you awaken them with love and truth. And yes, sometimes that assignment feels lonely. There are days you wish someone would see how hard it is to hold the line when others walk away. But take heart, God sees. Every sleepless night, every tear you've hidden, every whispered prayer, none of it goes unnoticed. When others rest, heaven hears your cry, and the Father smiles. So, stand your ground. Watchman, keep your eyes clear and your heart pure. The trumpet in your spirit must remain ready. Soon, the signal will sound, and the remnant will respond. The darkness cannot withstand a people fully awake. Now, if these words stir something in you, if you know in your bones that this call belongs to you, then declare it boldly in the comments. I'm watching. Type it as a declaration, not of pride, but of readiness. Let heaven see that you are awake at your post. Alert, unshaken, faithful. When you write those two words, you align yourself with the unseen army. God is gathering the watchmen who refuse to sleep while destinies hang in the balance. Hold your post. Chosen one, the dawn is closer than you think. There comes a point in your awakening where you realize the journey was never about attendance, it was always about assignment. You were not called merely to sit under light, but to be light. You were never meant to keep your faith contained within walls. You were designed to carry it into the world, like fire in your hands. For too long, the system told you your value was found in how faithfully you attended, how loudly you sang, how visibly you served. But the Spirit is teaching you that the true measure of faithfulness is obedience, quiet, consistent obedience when no one is watching. You have crossed the threshold from being a spectator to being a vessel. You no longer wait for permission to shine. You simply shine because that is your nature. You're beginning to understand that church is not a weekly event but a daily existence. Every conversation becomes a pulpit. Every act of kindness becomes worship. Every place your feet touch becomes sacred ground. This is what heaven always intended, a kingdom that moves, breathes, and flows through living temples instead of marble ones. Think of yourself as a lantern carried through dark streets. Inside that lantern burns the flame of revelation. The glass that protects it is your faith, and the oil that fuels it is your surrender. The world doesn't need you to shout, it needs you to shine. The people around you aren't waiting for sermons, they're waiting for someone who looks like love. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 9, for we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field, God's building. You are his field, his building, his instrument of change. Wherever you go, heaven expands its territory through you. When you speak truth, you plant seeds. When you forgive, you rebuild ruins. When you love the unlovable, you become the hands of the carpenter himself. Yet sometimes, this assignment feels overwhelming. You look around at the darkness, at broken systems, divided hearts, cold faith, and you wonder, can my little light really matter? The answer is yes. Always yes. Because light never competes with darkness, it simply exists. and darkness cannot remain where it burns. You are one flame among many, but together, the chosen ones form a wildfire that no power can contain. Still, even a flame must be tended. Fires fade when ignored, and lights grow dim when starved of oil. That is why community, encouragement, and generosity matter. When you like this message, it is not vanity, it's oxygen to the flame. When you share it, you're not promoting a name, you're passing the torch. When you subscribe, you stay near the campfire, ensuring your light doesn't fade in the wind of the world. And if you feel moved, if these words have ministered to you like rain in a dry season, consider sowing back. Donate, not as charity, but as covenant. Your giving becomes like oil poured on the flame, helping it burn brighter, helping this message reach other souls who still stumble in shadow. Think of it as feeding a lamp in the temple of digital wilderness, each act of giving another drop of holy oil that keeps the fire alive. What you do here is not small. Every engagement, every seed, every word you carry forward has eternal consequence. Some who hear your shared message will find healing, others will find hope, and some will find God again. Not in a building, but through your obedience. That is your assignment, to build invisible altars in visible places. So, keep walking. Lantern bearer. The road may be narrow, but it's lined with angels. When your hands grow weary, remember, you are not carrying the fire alone. Every chosen one walking this path carries a spark, and together, you form a constellation that guides the lost back to light. Let your daily life be your sermon. Let your humility preach louder than any microphone. Let your generosity tell the world that you have been transformed by something greater than human effort. And as you continue, remember that heaven takes note, not of how often you attend, but how faithfully you shine. You have crossed over. You are no longer a listener, you are a lighthouse. You are not waiting for the move of God, you are part of it. Keep burning. Keep giving. Keep glowing. The world is darker than it admits, but your light still carries hope strong enough to pierce through the fog. And as you go, may your fire never fade. And may your obedience keep the lamp of heaven burning in every place you walk. It happens quietly at first, the realization that what God is rebuilding no longer looks like what man once built. The true temple is emerging again, not with stone or glass, but with hearts that have been broken and rebuilt by grace. You begin to understand why God had to lead you out of the structures of religion, because He wanted to make you the structure of His Spirit. You are becoming the temple He always desired to dwell in. For centuries, people have mistaken location for presence. They believed God could only be found where choirs sang and pulpits stood tall. But from the beginning, His plan was never about architecture, it was always about abiding. Even when Solomon built the grand temple in Jerusalem, God reminded him that no house made by human hands could contain His glory. The same voice still speaks today. I no longer dwell in temples built by men. I dwell in those who make room for me within. Oh, you, chosen one, are that living temple. Every prayer you whisper becomes an incense that rises to heaven. Every act of compassion becomes an offering. Every moment you surrender becomes a brick of spiritual gold laid by the master builder himself. The altar is no longer on a stage, it's in your spirit. When you walk into a room, heaven enters with you. You carry an atmosphere that shifts everything around you. People feel peace when you arrive, not because of your words, but because of His presence within you. You've become a mobile sanctuary. His glory now moves through your breath, your kindness, your courage. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 27, verse 4. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek Him in His temple. Oh, what David longed for, to dwell constantly in God's house, is now your reality. You no longer visit His presence, you live in it. You don't step into worship, you are worship. The temple is not a destination anymore, it's a condition of your heart. But this kind of temple is costly. It requires purity, not perfection. It demands surrender, not self-promotion. The world builds with ambition, but heaven builds with humility. To carry God's glory, you must be emptied of everything that competes with it: ego, fear, resentment, pride. The old furniture of your heart must be cleared to make space for His throne. And this is where the refining comes. God begins to rearrange the rooms of your life. He touches the hidden corners where bitterness hides, sweeps the floors where old shame still lingers. It can feel invasive, even painful. But He is not punishing you. He is preparing His dwelling. He refuses to share His space with what seeks to destroy you. Every painful revelation, every moment of conviction, it's all part of the remodeling process. The beauty of this new temple is that it cannot be destroyed by fire, flood, or failure. It's not built on reputation, but on revelation. No government can close it. No persecution can silence it. No betrayal can crumble it. You are a walking monument of mercy, a temple of spirit, not stone. And as you walk in this awareness, you begin to notice the shift around you. Places that once felt heavy now feel holy. Conversations that once drained you now fill you with purpose. You've become a vessel where heaven and earth meet, a living conduit of God's power. People who encounter you encounter Him, even if they don't understand why. This is what Jesus meant when He said that rivers of living water would flow from within those who believe. You have become that river, flowing wherever God sends you. The walls that once confined your faith are gone. Your worship no longer needs music to rise. It flows naturally, like breath. And when you fall short, as all humans do, the temple does not collapse. Grace restores what guilt tried to demolish. Repentance becomes your daily repair. Forgiveness, your eternal foundation. You are learning that holiness isn't about never falling, it's about always returning. The more you walk in this revelation, the freer you become. The weight of religious performance lifts, and joy begins to flow again. You stop striving to earn God's love because you realize you already carry it inside you. You no longer chase encounters because you have become one. You no longer look for where God is moving because He is moving in you. And as you continue on this path, the world will see the difference. They will see temples walking, praying, healing, and shining temples that laugh, weep, and forgive. You are part of that generation of living sanctuaries, breathing reflections of His glory. This is the rebuilding of the true temple, not a monument to man's devotion, but a dwelling for God's presence. You are that dwelling. You are that proof. You are that place where heaven feels at home. There are seasons when obedience leads you not into applause, but into fire. You've entered one of them now, the fire of isolation. It burns not to destroy, but to purify. It consumes every illusion of control, every leftover dependency, every residue of fear. You may not see it yet, but this fire is your friend. It is shaping you into the version of yourself that heaven always saw. The fire of isolation feels heavy at first. It's that ache when messages go unanswered, when the people you once leaned on no longer check in. You watch gatherings from a distance and wonder why you no longer fit. You're tempted to think something is wrong with you, but the Spirit whispers, "Nothing is wrong. I am refining you in private so you can stand in public." And every chosen one walks through this furnace. Joseph sat in prison. Elijah hid in a cave. John the Baptist waited alone in the wilderness. Even Jesus prayed in solitude while his disciples slept. Isolation is not a sign of rejection. It is evidence of preparation. Heaven always hides what it intends to use mightily. The silence around you is not emptiness. It's divine concentration. God is speaking, but not through noise. He's speaking through the stillness, the waiting, the moments when your tears become your only prayer. You're learning to hear him in frequencies others ignore. You're discovering that his voice doesn't always roar, it often whispers. Steady and sure. The longer you stay in this fire, the more you start to see yourself clearly. Pride burns away first, then insecurity, then every false identity, the world attached to your name. The fire does not lie. It reveals what's real. When the smoke clears, only truth remains, your truth and God's truth, fused together in surrender. The prophet Isaiah wrote of this sacred purification in the book of Isaiah, chapter 48, verse 10. "See, I have refined you. Though not as silver, I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." Ollie, you are being tested. Yes, but not to prove your weakness, to reveal your strength. The furnace is not punishment, it's a promotion in disguise. Every moment you remain faithful in the fire, heaven marks you as trustworthy. You are being tempered like steel, stronger with every strike, sharper with every trial. And when the loneliness feels unbearable, remember this: God never sends fire without also standing in it. The same presence that walked with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walks with you now. The flames that others see as destruction are the very flames in which you'll dance unharmed. The isolation that others call abandonment, heaven calls encounter. You may look around and see ashes, but heaven sees a foundation. From those ashes, new authority will rise. You will speak differently, love differently, lead differently. The voice that emerges from the fire will carry weight, because it will have been purified from the desire to please men. You will no longer echo, you will declare. This season is sacred, and it will not last forever. Fires are not meant to burn endlessly, they are meant to refine thoroughly. There will come a moment when the heat lifts, and peace settles. The same hands that lit the fire will pull you out, shining and unshaken. People who once doubted you will notice something different about your eyes, your tone, your presence. They won't be able to name it, but they'll feel it, the residue of divine fire, and you'll smile, because you'll know what they don't. That the loneliness, the waiting, the silence, it all had purpose. You were never alone. You were in the forge of heaven, being shaped for destiny. Now, if these words resonate with your spirit, if you feel that this fire of isolation has been shaping you, write 333 inches. The comments. It's not just a number. It's a declaration of divine completeness and alignment with the Trinity. It means Father, Son, and Spirit are with me in the fire. It's your way of saying, I'm not burning down, I'm burning brighter. End of. Let your declaration be a mark in heaven's record, a sign that you trust the process, even when it hurts. Because when the flames fade, you will not come out smelling like smoke. You will come out carrying glory. Remember this. Chosen one, gold fears no fire, because it knows the flame only proves its worth. You are gold in the making, refined for divine display. The furnace of isolation will not consume you, it will crown you. You begin to feel it, a stirring in the unseen, a pulse that beats stronger with each passing day. The wilderness that once felt so empty now hums with quiet connection. You realize you're not the only one who heard heaven's call. Across cities, countries, and continents, others have been awakening too. The scattered chosen ones are finding each other, drawn by the same fire that burns in your bones. This is the gathering of the unchurched, anointed the rising of a people who belong not to walls, but to wonder. It doesn't happen through invitation or advertisement. There are no flyers, no formalities, no polished slogans. It happens through recognition spirit, recognizing spirit. You encounter someone by chance, and something inside you leaps. You see it in their eyes. That familiar depth, that quiet conviction. They speak your language without needing words. This is how heaven gathers its remnant, not through institutions, but through divine intersections. These meetings are sacred. Sometimes they take place in living rooms, sometimes in coffee shops, sometimes in online spaces where hearts align through shared hunger. There's no hierarchy here, no competition, no need for titles. The only goal is presence, the shared awareness that God is moving again among His people, not through systems, but through surrender. It's humbling to witness. People who once walked away from church now become the church wherever they go. They sing with no stage, pray with no spotlight, give without recognition. Each carries a piece of the divine plan, and when they come together, heaven releases a synergy that systems could never manufacture. You can feel it when they gather, a weight of glory that cannot be contained, a sense that something ancient and new is being reborn all at once. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 22, and in him you too are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. That verse is no longer a theory, it's alive in this remnant. You can see it in the way they love without labels, worship without fear, and obey without hesitation. They are not perfect, but they are pure. Their unity is not based on doctrine, but en dévotion. The Spirit himself binds them together in invisible cords of fire, and though they may never all meet face to face, they are connected nonetheless. The same Spirit that hovered over the waters in Genesis now hovers over this scattered body of believers, knitting them together in purpose. You may be in a different land, speaking a different language, living a different life. Yet, when you pray, your voice joins theirs. Together, Your collective faith forms a single sound that heaven cannot ignore. This is the new movement. A global church without borders. A body without division. A people driven not by tradition, but by revelation. They are the unchurched, anointed, and their anointing is unconventional. They carry compassion instead of condemnation, truth instead of tradition, healing instead of hierarchy. They are missionaries in disguise, teachers in classrooms, baristas behind counters, nurses in hospitals, artists with brushes dipped in prophecy. They preach not through sermons, but through service. This is what the early church once looked like: fluid, fearless, full of fire. No one waited for permission to move. They simply moved as the Spirit led. The modern remnant carries that same DNA. They don't rebel against the church. They rebuild it from the ashes of authenticity. They don't abandon truth. They amplify it in places religion forgot to reach. You are part of that gathering, whether you realize it or not. Every moment you share your faith without fear. Every time you extend grace to someone undeserving. Every quiet act of love, it's part of this movement. You are a living cell in the body of revival. A heartbeat in God's new rhythm for the earth. And though the world may not recognize you, heaven knows your name. Angels know your post. The Spirit knows your sound. You are not hidden, you are held. Each step you take, each word you speak, aligns with a greater orchestration unfolding across the nations. You are a note in a song heaven has been writing since before time began. This gathering is not about fame or followers, it's about function. The world sees randomness, heaven sees order. The world calls you scattered, heaven calls you sent. When this remnant moves, revival won't come from pulpits, but from people. It will not erupt through programs, but through pure hearts, walking in unity. So look around, not with your eyes, but with your spirit. The unchurched anointed are everywhere, quiet revolutionaries of grace, walking miracles of mercy, living temples of truth. You're not alone in this holy rebellion of love. The network of heaven's chosen stretches farther than the eye can see, pulsing with purpose, humming with light. You are part of that symphony now. One sound, one flame, one family without walls. The wind is shifting again. You can feel it in the spiritual atmosphere, a weight of transition, a rearranging of thrones and crowns. God is moving through the ranks of leadership across the earth, not just in churches, but in every sphere of influence. What once seemed immovable is trembling. What once appeared secure is being shaken. This is the moment when God shifts leadership. Heaven is no longer impressed by eloquence or status. It is searching for purity and humility. The age of charisma without character is ending. The spotlight that once blinded is now exposing. Those who built platforms on pride will watch as God dismantles them, not to shame, but to save, for His glory will no longer share a stage with ego. You, chosen one, are witnessing this divine reordering. It's not chaos, it's calibration. The hand of the Lord is realigning authority according to heaven's standard, not human opinion. Those who were first are being humbled, and those who were hidden are being raised. Thrones are being vacated, mantles are being reassigned, and crowns are being placed on unexpected heads. You may not have a title, but the Spirit within you carries more weight than many who do. The days ahead will prove that true authority is not appointed by men, but anointed by God. It doesn't come through elections, popularity, or votes. It comes through surrender. Heaven recognizes obedience more than credentials. When God shifts leadership, He doesn't consult tradition. He moves with precision. He raises the meek, the overlooked, the ones who carried oil in silence. He calls the broken, the faithful, the ones who refused to bow to compromise. The prophet Samuel once saw this shift firsthand, and his story still echoes through time. The Spirit spoke through the first book of Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And that truth is thundering again across the earth. God is not looking for the impressive. He's looking for the surrendered. The next move of heaven will not come through celebrity pastors or polished influencers. It will come through the humble intercessor, the quiet prophet, the nameless servant who simply says, "Yes, Lord, I." And when these hidden ones begin to emerge, it will not be through competition or rebellion. They will not tear down others to rise. They will simply rise because heaven commands it. Their authority will not be loud, but it will be undeniable. Their words will carry the fragrance of heaven, and their hands will carry the power to heal, restore, and rebuild. This divine reordering is not limited to churches. It is sweeping through governments, businesses, schools, and homes. God is placing righteous leaders in places that once bowed to corruption. He is exalting voices that speak truth, even when it costs them everything. Those who led through manipulation will be replaced by those who lead through mercy. Those who ruled with control will yield to those who rule through compassion. But do not mistake this shift for destruction. It is restoration. God is not burning the system for the sake of spectacle. He's purifying it for the sake of salvation. The shaking is mercy disguised as judgment. When false leadership crumbles, it makes space for true shepherds to arise, those who will guide rather than govern, serve rather than dominate. And as this happens, you may find yourself suddenly placed in positions you never expected. Doors will open, not because you knocked loudly, but because heaven unlocked them for you. You may feel unqualified, but that's exactly the point. God chooses the unqualified to prove that His strength is greater than skill. When He calls, He equips. When He sends, He sustains. There's a quiet reverence in this kind of leadership. It carries authority that doesn't need to announce itself. It leads through listening, loves through discipline, and serves through sacrifice. These are the leaders heaven trusts, the ones who remember that crowns are not rewards, but responsibilities. You might not see it yet, but the changing of the guard is already in motion. The unseen hand of God is placing crowns on bowed heads, passing torches from the proud to the pure. This is the hour where humility will rule and truth will triumph. So do not envy the stage or chase the title. Simply stay surrendered. When the wind shifts fully, it will find you ready, not striving, not self-promoting, but still and faithful. The throne that's meant for you will not miss you. God Himself is your confirmation. You can feel it. Something vast is awakening. It's no longer just you or a few scattered souls praying in secret. across nations. A pulse of light is rising from the ground up. The global ecclesia, the living, breathing body of believers, is awakening. Not the institution, but the invisible church that moves with every heartbeat of heaven. You are witnessing prophecy unfold, not in buildings, but in people. The word ecclesia means those called out. That is exactly what is happening now. God is calling his people out of routine and into revelation, out of programs and into power. The sleeping bride is opening her eyes, brushing off the dust of tradition, and standing radiant again. The light returning to the world does not come from pulpits, it comes from people like you. Imagine it, small flames scattered across the earth, flickering in homes, in streets, in cities once considered spiritually barren. At first, each flame seems isolated, insignificant. But then, a wind begins to blow. The fire spreads, merging into one vast blaze that no darkness can contain. That is the church now, fluid, borderless, unstoppable. You, chosen one, are part of this ignition. Your prayers, your obedience, your hunger, all of it feeds the flame. The Spirit is no longer moving through one person at a time. He's moving through multitudes who carry the same frequency of surrender. Every whisper of worship joins the chorus. Every act of love becomes a spark in this divine wildfire. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 14, "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea." That is what this moment is, the ocean of glory beginning to rise. The ecclesia is not confined to nations or denominations. It is spreading like a tide, touching every shore. You are part of that wave. Every time you speak truth, comfort the broken, forgive the unforgivable, you help the waters rise. This awakening is gentle but unstoppable. It's in the mother praying over her child, the student sharing truth in quiet courage, the businessman refusing corruption, the artist painting visions of grace. These are the new pastors, prophets, and evangelists, everyday people carrying extraordinary presence. The Holy Spirit is democratizing power, placing it in the hands of those willing to walk in purity and love. But every great fire must be tended. Flames kan die if ignored. That is why staying connected matters. When you like this message, you are fanning the flame, not just here, but within your own spirit. When you share it, you're not promoting a name, you're lighting another torch somewhere across the world. When you subscribe, you're keeping your lamp trimmed, ensuring that when new oil flows, you receive it. And if this message has strengthened your faith, consider sowing into it. Donate not as a transaction, but as participation. Your giving becomes a log placed upon this growing fire. Every gift, no matter how small, keeps the warmth spreading to those who still shiver in spiritual coldness. You're not fueling content, you're fueling connection, keeping the signal of heaven alive in a digital desert. Let this be a global campfire, a place where the cold find warmth, the weary find rest, and the lost find direction. You are not just a listener, you're a keeper of the flame. The world may never know your name, but heaven does. Your consistency, your engagement, your generosity, your faith helps this movement breathe. So pause for a moment. Look at how far you've come. You walked out of the walls, survived the wilderness, endured the fire, and now stand among a global family of flames. You are proof that the church was never a building, it was always a heartbeat. This is not revival, it's restoration. It's not a temporary outpouring, it's a permanent awakening. The Spirit is reclaiming what religion lost: compassion, truth, power, and unity. The broken altars are being rebuilt, but this time, with living stones, you and every believer willing to burn for love. If this message resonates with your spirit, take a moment to reflect and leave a comment below. Share what light has meant to you. Your words may be the spark that reignites someone else's fire. Sometimes, all it takes is a single testimony to remind another soul that they're not alone in the dark. Keep burning, chosen one. Keep building, keep shining. The global ecclesia is alive, and through you, it breathes. Together, we are the hilltop city in a night that thought it could last forever. And when the dawn finally breaks, the world will know it was the fire in the faithful that never went out. When the shaking slows and the dust begins to settle, something becomes clear. You were never called to merely witness change. You were called to carry it. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every moment of silence has been preparing you for this, your apostolic assignment. You have been refined, not for recognition, but for responsibility. What heaven poured into you in secret is now meant to flow out into the world. You were never meant to stay within the safety of the sanctuary. Apostolic means sent one, and that is who you are. You are being sent into unfamiliar places with familiar power, into darkness carrying divine light. Your mission is not to impress, it is to impact. You've spent seasons learning to hear heaven, now you will speak with its authority. The same God who trained Moses in the desert and Paul in obscurity is commissioning you now to walk boldly into your calling. This assignment doesn't require a pulpit, it requires presence. You don't need a stage, you need sensitivity. God will lead you into conversations that shift atmospheres, into workplaces that need quiet wisdom, into encounters where your very presence becomes a sermon. You will walk into rooms heavy with confusion, and peace will follow you in like wind after a storm. That is the authority of the sent ones. They don't just go for God, they go with Him. The Apostle Paul spoke this truth in his second letter to the Corinthians. Chapter 5, verse 20. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making His appeal through us. That's what this moment means. You are heaven's voice to the earth. God's appeal in human form. Your words are invitations to grace. Your actions, reflections of mercy. You're not sent to judge the world, but to heal it. You are an ambassador of reconciliation, carrying a message that mends what sin has broken. This assignment will stretch you. It will take you into places where faith feels fragile, where opposition stirs. But that is where your authority shines brightest. Apostolic grace doesn't avoid resistance, it transforms it. You'll walk into confusion and speak clarity. Step into despair and release hope. You won't need to shout or prove your worth. The presence you carry will do the proving for you. Understand this. You are not being sent alone. Every apostolic mission comes with angelic reinforcement. Heaven does not send its soldiers without surrounding them with strength. The same unseen armies that marched with Elisha, the same fire that guarded Israel, now goes before you. Every step you take is measured, protected, and purposed. But do not mistake movement for busyness. Apostolic living is not about doing more, it's about doing precisely what heaven commands. It's obedience without distraction, action without ego. Your power will not come from activity, but alignment. When you move in rhythm with God, even small steps shake nations. There will be days when you feel unqualified, unsure, even unseen. But that humility is part of your armor. It keeps you dependent, teachable, and pure. God delights in using vessels that know they cannot succeed without Him. The more you surrender, the greater your authority becomes. You may not realize it, but the people around you are watching. They sense something different. Though they might not have words for it, they see peace where there should be panic, patience where there should be frustration, love where there should be judgment. Without preaching a word, you're revealing the kingdom. That's apostolic living, to embody heaven's culture in earth's chaos. And as you walk, you'll begin to notice signs following you, doors opening where there were walls, hearts softening that once were stone, divine coincidences aligning your path. This is not luck, it's legacy. When heaven sends someone, creation itself recognizes them. Even the ground beneath your feet seems to respond to your purpose. Still, remember the foundation: intimacy before influence. Never let the mission replace the relationship. Apostolic authority flows from friendship with God, not function for Him. Before you speak for heaven, sit with heaven. Before you go out, go in. Every great move outward begins with a deep moment inward. So, walk forward. Chosen one. Step into your apostolic assignment, not with fear, but with reverence. The world doesn't need another voice shouting truth. It needs hearts living truth. You are that heart, that vessel, that ambassador. You are proof that God still sends ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And when you look back, you'll see that every season, every tear, every trial, every silence was shaping your stride for this very walk. You were never wandering, you were being prepared. Now go, sent one, and let heaven's authority flow through your humanity. There is a stillness before coronation, a quiet that comes before heaven, places the final seal upon a life. You stand in that stillness now. The long road, the tears, the breaking, the refining, it has all led here. You have walked through walls and wilderness, through fire and isolation, and you have not turned back. The Father looks upon you now, not with pity, but with pride. You are being crowned outside the system, lifted by unseen hands, marked not by men, but by God Himself. This moment is not loud, it is sacred. There are no trumpets, no ceremonies, no applause, just a divine hush as heaven bends low to honor what obedience has built. You are not being rewarded for perfection, but for perseverance. While others sought positions, you sought His presence. While many chased platforms, you chose purity. That is why this crown fits only you. It was forged from every yes you whispered in private, every sacrifice that cost you something, every moment you obeyed when no one else believed. As the Apostle wrote in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. That promise is yours. The crown you receive is not made of metal or jewels. It is made of faith that did not falter, love that did not grow cold, and hope that did not die. You wear it now not on your head, but in your spirit. It shines not for the world to admire, but for heaven to recognize. Every time you walk in forgiveness, every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you keep believing when others doubt you, polish that crown anew. And this crowning does not mean your work is finished. It means you have crossed the threshold from preparation into purpose. You will still walk among ordinary people, but you will not walk as one of them. You carry a different fragrance now, the scent of surrender, the perfume of perseverance. Darkness recognizes it and trembles. Heaven smells it and smiles. You will find that doors begin to open without your knocking. Opportunities will appear not because you sought them, but because they were waiting for this exact version of you, the refined, faithful, fearless you. The authority you now carry will draw both opposition and opportunity, but you will discern the difference easily, because your eyes have been trained in the fire. The world will not understand this crowning. They will see stability and mistake it for pride. They will sense your confidence and call it arrogance. But you will know the truth. This is not pride, it is peace. The peace that comes when purpose finally settles where it belongs. The crown is not a symbol of power, it's a reminder of responsibility. You have been trusted with influence, not to rule, but to redeem. Every chosen one must learn to carry the crown quietly. The greatest kings walk humbly. The holiest prophets listen more than they speak. You will discover that the higher God lifts you, the lower your heart must bow. The more glory he releases through you, the more gratitude must fill you. For crowns can only stay secure upon heads that remain bowed in reverence. Look around you now, not with physical eyes, but with your spirit. The horizon glows with a new light. The systems of man continue to crumble, but the kingdom stands unshaken. You are part of that kingdom, a living testament that God still raises those who refuse to compromise. You have been refined like gold, stretched like wineskin, and built like temple. Now you are crowned as carrier of truth, of mercy, of light. This is not the end. Chosen one, it is the unveiling of who you've always been. You are stepping into your full stature, anointed, appointed, and aligned. The crown does not end your journey, it sanctifies it. It is heaven's silent decree that says, you are ready. Oh, walk forward with grace. Wear your crown in humility. Let the world see not your glory, but his through you. For the mark upon you now is eternal, and no man can remove what heaven has placed. And now, below the chosen one, the journey circles back to where it began, but you are not the same. You've been called out, refined, stretched, and crowned. The old you walked in wondering, the new you walks in knowing. You no longer seek signs, you've become one. The world around you may still tremble, but you stand as proof that faith can bloom even in ashes. Pause and breathe. Feel the peace that now fills the spaces where confusion once lived. This is your divine reward: clarity, courage, and calm. You've stepped into your identity as God's living temple, carrying heaven into every place your feet touch. That is the essence of being chosen, not perfection, but presence. If these words have stirred your spirit, take a moment to let heaven see your gratitude. Like this message as an act of agreement, as if lighting a small candle of faith in a dark world. Share it not for fame, but for flame, so that someone else wandering through their wilderness might find the same light that found you. If you haven't already, subscribe and stay near the fire. This is not a one-time word. It's a continual flow of revelation. Let this be your spiritual home in a digital wilderness, a place where truth still speaks and love still burns. And if your heart feels led, donate, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. Every seed you sow becomes another spark that keeps this message alive, reaching souls who need to remember that God still calls, still heals, still crowns. Before you leave, write a comment, share what this journey has meant to you. Your words may become the bridge someone else needs to cross from fear to faith. Keep shining. Keep building. Keep believing. The story of the chosen ones has only just begun.